The NEWSROUND on Off the Ball.
With Gillette. Put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
This is News Talk.
Hello there, you're welcome along. So another Champions League evening. David Myler is with us on the football show. Lots of criticism going the way of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We'll talk to Tim Vickery as well, always a great guest, on the way between 9 and 10. This hour we are talking tennis with Luke Jensen, a doubles winner at the French Open. So Emma Raducanu is now a Grand Slam winner on just her second attempt. Took Monica Seles 4 attempts. Novak Djokovic, meanwhile, loses the final but is receiving the love from the crowd for the first time at last. And then at 8 o'clock, Dermot Gilleese talking Ryder Cups past and present coming your way. 53106, the text number. We are at Off the Ball on Twitter. Richie McCormack, hello to you.
I'm genuinely surprised, Joe, that you just haven't given over the full 3 hours to the legendary Mr. Gilleese to talk Ryder Cup memories, because that's a solid show, pretty much, if you just have Dermot in.
He has a lot of great memories, so that's on the way.
You can just sit and listen to him all day.
Yeah. We recorded this chat before coming on air. Even just talking about how bad a captain Nick Faldo was thoroughly enjoyable, I have to say.
I remember that coming up before when he was in one of the Sundays, I think, when we were, International Week or FA Cup weekend or one of them, and you're kind of, without wanting to go behind the curtain too much, you're just looking to fill an hour that would have been ordinarily set aside for a match. But Dermot would come in and give you brilliant stories, particularly about the Ryder Cup. And I remember Faldo coming up and how much of a shambles that entire venture was.
Well, I think if you're stuck for 5 minutes to fill his speech, I mean, it's an odd role, obviously, the Ryder Cup captain, but they give the speeches, the opening speeches, and Faldo's is like a best man who ran out during the main course to scribble some thoughts down. I think
there's probably just did.
Oh, well, there's a reference to like Padraig Carrington and like his practice and how he's hit more shots than he has picked potatoes and stuff like this, and I think he's not too sure which country Graham McDowell is from, but then maybe Graham's not too sure either, like these kind of Faldo quips, and well, it's glorious, and it was downhill from there, I think, really. Ronan Mullen, you're with us as well. Hello
Joe, how are things?
Very well. So we were putting the show together earlier on in the meeting, and Mullen was straight in with, I know we covered Manchester United last night, but we need to go back and cover them some more. A lot of heat coming Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's way. Your contention in the meeting, I would say, not to put words in your mouth, but your sense was with Solskjaer, he can set a team up and he can get a starting 11 out there and with a plan. You're not so sure that during a game he's reacting all too well, which is the main charge coming at Solskjaer, obviously, after last night and how he reacted to the red card to Wan-Bissaka.
No, that's pretty spot on, and like I would preface it by saying I wouldn't be one of the Solskjaer knockers. Like there are a lot of people out there who, when he got the job on a caretaker basis, decided there and then he's not up to it, he's ill-equipped, and every time a defeat happens, they're sort of reverse engineering it to put all the blame on him. And then they're saying when United win games, it's down to individual brilliance. So if you're saying the wins are down to individual brilliance, you can't discount the individual errors that cost them the game yesterday, those being Wan-Bissaka's red card and obviously Jesse Lingard at the end of the game. But having said that, there are controllables within these games that he is chiefly charged with, overseeing. And this wasn't a one-off last night. Not the result so much, but the manner of it. And this has become a trend in games that Manchester United should be winning, specifically in Europe, oddly enough, where especially with the 5 substitute rule, which is in place at the moment, that other teams are sort of outmanoeuvring him on the substitute side of things. And yesterday he almost had too many options. He scrambled upon the Wan-Bissaka red card and seemed to be sort of trying to put the fire out after that. And then obviously the charge that's been laid at his door today is, has he got the bottle to take off the likes of Pogba, Ronaldo and Fernandes, who, objectively speaking, given the way the game was going, those were more probably appropriate substitutions than the likes of Jadon Sancho, who, although wasn't having a great game, offers a counter-attacking threat. And, he was obviously deemed surplus to requirements by Solskjaer after, 25 minutes. Like, there is a lot to unpack from the game, but the biggest takeaway for me was, like, why did he decide that going down to 10 men meant, right, we're not going to have another shot in this game? Granted, Ronaldo streaked through and probably should have had a penalty. If you look at the replay, there was like a forearm in the back. He went down, kind of threw a little strop, and that probably put the referee off a little bit. But, objectively speaking, I think it probably was a penalty. But aside from that, they created nothing. So they basically decided, we're shutting up shop here, brought on Rafael Varane and sat back. And I just wonder, and this is the thing, like, Solskjaer isn't, technically speaking, the best man for the job. I think even the most ardent Solskjaer fans would admit that. So do people think that the likes of Klopp or Guardiola or Tuchel would have approached that game with 10 men slightly differently? I think it's safe to say they would have. So all that notwithstanding, Joe, I think he's in a difficult spot now, and they need to get back to winning ways this weekend, I would think.
Well, I know David Myler, who's with us after 9, doesn't think Solskjaer did the right things last night, so we'll tease that out with Myler. I have seen Solskjaer criticised for both not taking Ronaldo off at half time, and I've seen him criticised for taking Ronaldo off when he did, which was in the 72nd minute when he took off Bruno Fernandes as well. If you missed the game, when Wan-Bissaka was sent off, he put Dalot on and went to a back five. So it was Dalot, Lindelof, Varane came on as well. Van de Beek went off. So it was Dalot, Lindelof, Varane, Maguire and Shaw. So that was a back five. It was Fred, it was Bruno Fernandes, and it was Pogba as your midfield three, and it was Ronaldo leading the line on his own. So the argument to take Ronaldo off is that, well, you need your striker there to do a lot of running, to close down gaps, to make it more difficult for young boys to move into your half with extreme ease, and Ronaldo's not going to do that. He's not going to run off the ball and work hard for the team. And so this is an example of the downside of signing Ronaldo. This is Solskjaer afraid, effectively, to take off Ronaldo. So that's one argument. I've also seen, though, why did you take off Ronaldo? You needed a goal. He's your best chance. You get a header from a corner. He'll score a goal out of nothing. Why would you take off Ronaldo? And Solskjaer was like defending the decision in the press conference. For me, whether you leave on Ronaldo or not, I can see the merits of both. I can see the merits of leaving Ronaldo on to nick you a goal, for sure. For me, what actually last night highlights is the problem that Manchester United have had against Wolves and against Southampton, and frankly for most of last season, which is their midfield three of Fred and Fernandes and Pogba, who stayed on, like so many Manchester United midfields, just cannot keep the ball. So Manchester United had 28% possession after the sending off. 28% possession against young boys. They didn't have a single shot on target. Whether it's Ronaldo up there just hanging around hoping he gets a chance, or whether it's Mason Greenwood, that Paul Merson was saying, you've got to put on Greenwood, you've got to keep young boys' defence honest, stretch them, the threat of a ball over the top. I mean, look, Ronaldo hit 20 miles per hour at the weekend against Newcastle. It's not like he can't run over the top. The fundamental issue there is Solskjaer is going to get criticism either way because of the result. So it's whether you left on Ronaldo or whether you took Ronaldo off. There was criticism coming. For me, that's not the issue. The core issue at Manchester United is they cannot keep the ball. They cannot dominate games. Fred and Fernandes and Pogba, there's no midfield general there. Like, there's no Jorginho there to keep things ticking along. There's no way Manchester United should have 28% possession, even with 10 men. And so it actually doesn't matter if it's Ronaldo or if it's Mason Greenwood up front. Like, Ronaldo can't score if you don't have the ball either. So that was, the most damning thing for me is it highlights just the weakness in that Manchester United midfield. Now, Richie, it's been spun as Solskjaer's tactical gaffe, but I don't buy it. Like, I can see the merits of, I kind of want to leave Cristiano Ronaldo, who's just scored his third goal in 2 games for me this evening, kind of might take a chance on leaving him on. I don't think that's a ridiculous position to take.
It shows both the folly of the Ronaldo purchase and also the lack of attention to care of the areas that needed addressing within that side. The midfield was a glaring kind of area of concern for United for the past 18 months or more. And yet you're talking about players there who in the main are recent acquisitions. Pogba is probably the longest standing out of all of them. Bruno Fernandes has had the legs run off him over the course of the last 2 years for various reasons. Fred is Fred. He's not going to pull up any trees anytime soon. He's a dependable player, but nothing more. And Donny van de Beek, for whatever reason, hasn't had a chance to bed into that team. So that's a management issue, because you've allowed a situation whereby your midfield is that ineffectual, and Scott McTominay is then your other option, who again, isn't exactly going to be a world beater anytime soon. That needed addressing properly in the summer. They didn't. They opted to, spend 25 million on Ronaldo and whatever his wages are accounting for too. It's just baffling. I do agree that a lot of people seem to have had that criticism of Solskjaer in their back pocket ready to go for last night. Yeah. From very early points. Some of it is warranted, to be fair. I don't think his game management was brilliant. I don't think tactically he went into the game with the best of mind frames. But again, it's just the long term. You just can't see this working out. You can't see, Manchester United as a club are geared to win Premier Leagues regularly and compete in the Champions League, if not win the Champions League. They're not going to win a Champions League under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It's just not going to happen. By all means, play this back to me in May when they're 4-0 winners in the final in Istanbul. But like, it's just not going to happen. He's not going to be a Champions League winning manager for Manchester United. And if they do win a Premier League, look at how they're trying to go about it. They're trying to get short-term fixes like Ronaldo, like Edinson Cavani, to get them over the line. It's not something that's geared towards being a long-term success story. And that's going to get, and like, their introductions are at the, people are talking about them, helping Marcus Rashford and helping Mason Greenwood of this world. Yeah, they're also helping them by not giving them adequate game time that they need at this stage in their development. So if they do win the league, they're not going to win back-to-back, or they're not going to win 2 out of 3 given the squad that they have. And they're definitely not going to win a Champions League under Solskjaer.
Because the Ronaldo hype, Ronan, has distracted from the reality of the start of their season, which points-wise has been fine, but away to Southampton, especially first half, and Wolves, where they were destroyed and won that game courtesy of a Greenwood goal in the 80th minute. But they were destroyed in that Wolves game. It was like alarm bells all over the place. Then it's the international break. Ronaldo happens. The Newcastle game is its own crazy, frenzied entity. But I mean, like, the problems were there, they were glaring, and it's no surprise that they couldn't keep the ball when they really needed to. And that, for them, is the big issue. It's that the likes of Wolves and Southampton can make it very, very difficult for United to keep the ball, which they did in both those games. Whereas Man City, they wouldn't, young boys wouldn't have touched the ball for huge portions of that game last night if City had just wanted to play keep ball. And then Chelsea are ruthlessly efficient as well. Like, there's something kind of ominous about Chelsea. I think they're just going to win every single game, and we're going to be here in 6 months' time, and they'll be well clear of Manchester United. That's for sure. So I don't know. I'm torn on the criticism of Solskjaer last night. We'll see what David Myler has to say, but the point is being made. Well, that's now 2 pretty bad European games in a row, Ollie, the last one being the final. Yeah.
Well, the Ronaldo one is interesting. I know, again, a lot of people are sort of, did their diagrams and stuff and pointed to why this isn't going to work. He doesn't run enough, etc. Like, he's looking at, if he could have got the penalty, which he probably should have had, and took it himself, he's got 4 goals in 2 games. And I don't think many people would be, I think, as Richie said, they'd have to keep that in their back pocket for a little while longer, because as much as he doesn't close people down or sprint in behind, like, that penalty chance came from him reading the ball better than the defender, charging down and bursting through. Maybe 5 years ago, he wouldn't have needed, the defender wouldn't have got near him to foul him. He would have just tucked it away, and that would have been that. But I think to write Ronaldo off at this juncture is a bit premature. And the midfield thing is fascinating, like if you look at Solskjaer in a director of football almost mould, he's upgraded in most positions since he took over that club. I think you'd have to say the 11 is better. The mood, quote unquote, around the team is a bit better than it was under Mourinho. I think that's safe to say.
Oh yeah.
But you look at Ferguson's last few years at Manchester United, and I'm only comparing them because this is the team we're talking about. I think the midfield that beat Arsenal 8-2 that day, for example, was Cleverley and Anderson.
Yeah.
Not exactly world beaters. So Ferguson had manoeuvred a way to, accentuate the positives in that team, and he bypassed the midfield if necessary. So that's it. I think the solution can't always be buy better players. Solskjaer can't, whether behind closed doors or not, be saying, well, I need Declan Rice, we're going to get Declan Rice next summer, until then I can't win anything. You have to play the cards that you're dealt.
That's a great point. There was many a times Ferguson put out a team and you thought, oh my God, best of luck, and then they'd find a way of doing it. And it is I agree with you, Solskjaer's done a lot of things really well, the way he's transformed the squad in a relatively short period of time. So it's interesting if it now turns out his game management and making substitutions is going to be some kind of fatal flaw. So we'll see what David Myler says later on. Yeah, sorry, final thought?
Just one last point. It's probably not that important, but just the whole thing of Solskjaer, he's so revered at that club, and the fans love him to a point where they will never actually turn on him, I don't think. It's not going to be a case of the toxicity that basically forced Mourinho out the door. That's never going to come to Solskjaer. Yeah. Because none of the players in that team will ever garner a reputation that exceeds his until Ronaldo came back. And now Ronaldo is going to be politicking behind the scenes, you better believe it. If things aren't going well in a couple of months and he's looking at his career clock ticking down, as Richie said, they're not probably in a position to win the Champions League with this manager, Ronaldo's going to be, there's no doubt about it, he's going to be manoeuvring behind the scenes to get a better manager in. So Solskjaer had that ace in the pack that he was the highest profile person at that club, and he doesn't have that anymore. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah,
that's an interesting point as well. Our news round is with thanks to Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. So that was the Champions League last night. More Champions League on the way this evening. But Richie, you're starting with Connacht.
Yeah, the Connacht women's team have called for an investigation into the decision-making process that led to them having to change next to bins. Both Connacht and Ulster had to use appalling changing facilities for last week's interprovincial clash at Energia Park. The IRFU and Leinster have both apologised, with Connacht accepting. However, the province want to ensure a similar situation doesn't arise again. And it's a view shared by the Connacht men's back row, Paul Boyle.
We spoke about it ourselves in the change room that we wouldn't put up for it, and it's not good enough. I suppose from a bigger level, the apology has been made. Hopefully it won't happen again. Hopefully there's dressing rooms available and the COVID stuff goes away. But if a scenario like that was to happen again, hopefully the powers that be make the right decision and don't have the guys there.
Johnny Sexton then, Rich?
Yeah, the Ireland captain was a guest of this evening's Hard Shoulder on Newstalk. He was asked if the men's players could do more to fight the women's corner.
I want women's sport to be as strong as it can be. Like I said, I've got two daughters that I want to. I can already tell they're sporty. My little one Amy, she's 5 now, and she's obsessed. She's out in the garden playing soccer, playing golf. She loves it. Like, and I want her to have all the pathways that I had as a boy growing up, and that's what I want. You know what I mean? But I don't know the ins and outs. It's professional sport. I don't know the details that go with it, so I can't comment too heavily on it.
The Energia Park situation, I mean, I suspect it will be a short inquiry if Connacht's wish is granted, and there is one, because Leinster talked to the Irish Independent yesterday and Keane Tracy was putting questions to them, and in effect the reason they gave is that a different, more appropriate area to change had been set aside, but they said that Connacht turned up earlier than scheduled and there was no match operation staff on the ground at the time, and that's why they were shown to the wrong area, and that was the reason. So that was the reason given, and I suspect that's what the inquiry will find, and I suppose the conclusion will be, well, let's just make sure we have the match operation staff there in good time. So it's kind of that simple, which maybe is the frustrating thing in some ways, but that's where we are. Champions League this evening then?
Yeah, Liverpool and Manchester City's campaigns both beginning tonight. Liverpool and AC Milan meet at Anfield for the first time since the 2007 final, and for the first time outside of a final in the Champions League. A couple of interesting changes for Liverpool tonight. They line out with Alisson in goal, a back four of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Joel Matip, the returning Joe Gomez and Andy Robertson. In midfield, it's Fabinho, Naby Keita and captain Jordan Henderson, while up front it's Mo Salah, Divock Origi and Diogo Jota. Elsewhere in Group B, there's an Iberian derby as Atletico Madrid entertain Porto. Last season's beaten finalist Manchester City welcome RB Leipzig to the Etihad tonight. City line out with Ederson in goal, a back four of Joao Cancelo, Nathan Ake, Ruben Diaz and Alexander Zinchenko. In midfield then we've got Rodri, Riyad Mahrez and Kevin De Bruyne, with Bernardo Silva, Ferran Torres and Jack Grealish there front three. And Group A's other match sees Paris Saint-Germain away to Bruges, and Lionel Messi, Kylian Mbappe and Neymar all start up front for PSG tonight. There was a 5:45 start in Group C, where it's currently Borussia Dortmund 2, Besiktas 0 in Turkey. It's Jude Bellingham and Erling Haaland who've gotten those goals for the Bundesliga side tonight. At 8, Sporting play host Ajax. Another 5:45 start in Group D. Something of a shock on the cards here. Sheriff leading Shakhtar Donetsk by 2-0. And there's an 8 p.m. start at the San Siro tonight, where Inter play Real Madrid.
I mean, I wouldn't have said PSG Bruges was the main game, but the prospect of Neymar, Mbappe and Messi, I think a lot of live score streaming might be done in that one, I think, Ronan.
Yeah, it's like a FIFA team, isn't it? It's unbelievable. And again, I know people are probably making much play of the fact that these lads don't necessarily track back. Mbappe, maybe the slight exception at this stage in his career, but like effectively you're leaving those three up there to win you the game. And Pochettino, his pressing, his penchant for pressing teams, like that won't be the case with these. So he's going to have to maybe maneuver around that as well. And yeah, I think essentially they just have to be solid and let those three win you the game, as I said. And more often than not, I think 9 times out of 10 they probably will do that. So it's going to be, we're only going to get one season of this, maybe only till January if Mbappe gets his way and gets to Real Madrid in the winter transfer window, but I think we'll enjoy it while it lasts.
It is kind
By
of
the way,
like
Jude Bellingham this evening, Joe.
Jude Bellingham,
unbelievable.
Oh really? Yeah, I didn't get to see it. It is kind of like this weird task you'd be set on your like FA coaching course. You have a team with the 3 best players in Europe potentially, in Neymar, Mbappe and Messi, give or take. They refuse to track back. Now go and devise the plan. I mean, you'd say, well, that's not really going to happen. And suddenly Pochettino is spending his week thinking, I need to come up with something here which kind of works. So we'll see what he comes up with.
The rest of their team are hardly cloggers. Like, I'm looking at this here. It's insane. Like their midfield is Genuine Aldum, Paredes, and Ander Herrera.
Okay.
Their fullbacks are the slightly expensive Ashraf Hakimi and Diallo then on the left, and they got Marquinhos and Kimpembe at centre half. Like, good God, it's obscene the talent they have at hand. You can argue the toss over whether or not it's legal that they're able to have such depths of talent, but I don't think they're going to be worrying about the lads tracking back in Bruges tonight, to be fair.
Neymar, come back.
That is actually that's a perfect midfield three, though, isn't it? Like you look at the balance there, like those lads won't be too keen on getting forward, so they will actually let them at it up there. And yeah, as Richie said, Hakimi's an unbelievable player, and I don't know if Donnarumma is starting tonight, Richie, but he's probably the best goalkeeper in the world.
No, it's not goal actually tonight. Yeah.
So they're talk about strength and depth.
They'll manage. So the rugby season is inching its way back.
Yeah, and Leinster have confirmed today that the Aviva Stadium will be at 75% capacity for their opening game of the campaign. Last season's Pro 14 champions play host to the Bulls on Saturday week in the new United Rugby Championship. 38,000 fans will be permitted inside the Lansdowne Road venue for that game.
Sorry, I was just teeing you up because I haven't seen much of this beyond the headlines just on a couple of websites in the last hour or so, but I know that Simone Biles was before the US Senate today, I think, Richie?
Yeah, and a bunch of her gymnastics teammates will be doing the same too, and she blames the entire system for enabling the disgraced former US gymnastics team doctor Larry Nassar to sexually abuse her and others. The four-time Olympic champion has given emotional testimony to the US Senate, which is investigating shortcomings in the FBI's investigation, and Biles hopes lessons will be learned.
I don't want another young gymnast, Olympic athlete, or any individual to experience the horror that I and hundreds of others have endured before, during, and continuing to this day in the wake of the Larry Nassar abuse.
I mean, can you imagine trying to talk about that subject in that environment? It must be incredibly difficult. I note there that you say that the US Senate is investigating the shortcomings in the FBI's investigation as opposed to investigating USA Gymnastics. I hadn't realised the FBI were culpable in all this as well.
Yeah, it just goes to show the depth of the problem that was at hand and how it was not dealt with, I guess you could say, over the course of the last few years and not adequately dealt with. And again, looking at what Simone Biles has gone through and others, obviously she mentions like hundreds have had similar experiences to her in the USA gymnastics system. When you cast that against her going to still compete at the highest level and taking a step back in Tokyo for her own mental health and her own mental well-being, and then coming back and deciding that, yes, she's okay to actually perform. I cannot even begin to quantify the mental strength of that woman. And others, obviously, that have come and gone throughout that USA team. It's incredible. Like, it's absolutely incredible that they're still out there and able to bang this drum and ask for proper dealing with this subject while still competing at the highest level, still being one of the best athletes that you'll ever see live, and still having the wherewithal and the mental, knowledge, self-knowledge to step back and say, listen, I'm not okay here at the Tokyo Olympics. That, like, just a remarkable human being.
Meanwhile, Harvey Elliott is practically Pascal Struijk's lawyer at this stage. The guy can't do enough for Pascal Struijk at the moment.
He's hepped up on goofballs, Joe. The man's loaded with painkillers at the minute, so I wouldn't necessarily take Anthony saying seriously. But yeah, Harvey Elliott says it's wrong that Pascal Struijk had his red card appeal dismissed today. The Leeds defender was sent off following that challenge that saw Elliott suffer a double fractured dislocation of his left ankle. Struijk now is going to miss Leeds' next 3 matches.
Yeah, so I mean, in his statement, it was on Instagram, he was replying to the verdict, and I've lost the wording of it here. Oh, I think I have it. Yeah, so this is Harvey Elliott, whose ankle's just been sawed open. So he's just seen the news that the appeal has been rejected, and he writes, I'm sorry about this, Pascal. I think it's wrong, but it'll soon blow over, brother, and you'll be back in no time smashing it again. Keep positive, said Harvey Elliott with his ankle hanging off him. He's the world's nicest man.
Goofballs, Joe. Goofballs, man. It's hepped up on goofballs.
You're
my best mate. You know that? Should I? Pascal, come on around for cans. I'm not doing nothing for the next 6 months.
Yeah, like incredibly magnanimous, Ronan Mullen.
Oh, maturity beyond his years, and I don't know if the exact injury or the nature of it has been disclosed yet, but you're kind of hoping for his sake that it's a clean break and a full recovery will be made. But he was so brilliant to start this season, and like the way. It actually goes back to what we were talking about at the start of the show, that like the way Klopp approached that game against Leeds, for example, where most people would have like matched them up, and he said, no, we're going to control the game with the likes of Elliott and Thiago in there. I thought Thiago had his best game for Liverpool at the weekend, and Fabinho was obviously a Rolls Royce. So Liverpool quietly can we say they're coming under the radar given it's Liverpool Football Club? But I don't think many people were talking about them in big terms after their quiet transfer window. But they look really impressive. If they can keep somewhat fit for the entirety of the season, I think they'd be right there for all the big cups.
I think that's it. They have an extraordinary 11, 12, 13, and maybe it pales a touch after that in comparison with the other teams. But the 11 against Leeds was brilliant. Fellas, we're out of time. Richie, thank you.
Nice and lads.
Ronan, Mullen, thank you.
Cheers, lads.